Welcome to First Dates and Soulmates, the romance podcast that believes in paying for cell phones to continue even after someone has passed, because you never know what message you're going to get. Hey, I'm Nikki McKnight.
Case Bolts.
And on today's episode, we are talking about the new Netflix film starring Zoe Deutsch, voicemails for Isabelle, but also largely texting dead people and the romantic stories that can come out of that. That's our hook for today. You're welcome.
Or writing to dead people, any sort of communication with the dead that isn't like a seance ghost story type of communication with the dead. Like, you know they're dead, you don't expect them to text back, but like you want to have that connection to them. That's the greater theme that isn't paranormal.
There you go. Not
it's
paranormal.
Just grief.
This is just grief and people with cell phones. So
yes.
Voicemails for Isabelle is a recent Netflix rom-com. It's called a rom-com.
Question mark?
Yeah. It's a romantic story. Starring Zoe Deutsch, whom I love, adore. I wish she was such a bigger star than she is, because I think she's fucking delightful in everything we did. One of our very, very early episodes of the show, we did an episode on her and Glenn Powell and Set It Up, which is a fabulous movie. And you messaged me.
I feel like Glenn Powell has really like taken off
he's
since then. Zoe Deutsch is still like stuck in Netflix, which sucks.
I need her to be more. I want that for her if she wants it. If she doesn't want it, that's fine. If she wants it, I want it.
Right.
So Voicemails for Isabelle came out, and you messaged me and you're like, "Hey, Zoe Deutsch has a new movie out." I'm like, "I know. I've already watched it twice. Do you want to talk about it?" And I was like, "Yes." And what's interesting about that movie is Jill, played by Zoe Deutsch, is this baker living in San Francisco, has a really shitty job, but she loves her younger sister, Isabelle, who has cystic fibrosis, and they talk all the time. Well, surprise, Isabelle passes away, and Jill, in her grief, continues to text Jill's phone or leave her voicemails. She leaves voicemails for Isabelle. She leaves Isabelle's phone voicemails talking about her life and what she's suffering with, but what she does not know, that phone number has been reassigned to Nick Robinson's character, Wes, who starts to receive these voicemails and just starts listening to these messages. And they're very confessional, they're very open, they're very vulnerable, they're chaotic as hell. But he is intrigued by this person. So instead of messaging this person saying, "Hi, I have your sister's phone number now," because eventually does find out that, like, oh, this is her sister and her sister has died. He decides to go to San Francisco under the guise of a work trip to try and find her, and they get connected. And of course, you can see this coming. She finds out that he's been listening to these voicemails, that she has her sister's number, and on and on and on. Big romantic gestures abound. Cool. So great, fun story. With my
gestures, just like,
well, he did pay for the phone to be active for like another year. And he does like talk shit on that bad podcast host that she gets involved with at some point. But they brought up another film for me, which is called Love Again, which came out in 2023. Kind of a similar story. It's Priyanka Chopra and Sam Heughan from Outlander, and it's a remake of a German film, which was based on a novel by Sophie Kramer. And you have Mira, who is a children's book illustrator, and her fiance dies in a car accident. So she keeps texting his number messages about her feelings and her things. But again, hey, guess what? The number has been assigned to someone else, which is music journalist Rob Burns, played by the gorgeous Sam Heughan. And he, much like Wes in Voicemails to Isabelle, doesn't tell this person that, "Hi, I have this phone now. This is the wrong number. I don't know who you're trying to message." And instead engineers a meeting between them, and they start dating, and doesn't tell. Eventually she finds out. Very similar things ensue. And it brought up this idea of like, what out there in romance is this messaging dead people thing? Where does it show up?
or not knowing who you're messaging, or not knowing who's on the other end of the messages. I think that's a bit more common, not necessarily like the voicemails to the dead people, the text messages to the dead people, because I do feel like that's a very particular stage of grief. But there's also an awareness during that stage of grief that you can't do this forever, and I don't know, but I do think that there's a really interesting, like, when you don't know who's on the other end of the recipient of those voicemails or those text messages. How does that change? Does that change the way that you're doing it? And I loved Voicemails to Isabelle. I didn't watch Love Again. But I'm also sort of wondering, like, if you said that it came out in 2023, they were probably in production about the same time. It's not like one stole the idea from the other. It's like this linguistic convergence of, like, this is something that could happen. This is a good story. So this is something that people would do. Like, leave voicemails or reach out to people. You know, like, when my dad was in palliative care, I was like, great, let's record you talking. I don't want to forget the sound of your voice. I don't want to forget the sound of your laugh. You know, like, there's a certain amount of nostalgia that goes along with the grief. And I think, like, that's normal, but then to also, like, it's a really depressing way to start a romance, Nikki.
Yeah, it kind of is. And we've been criticized for this before on social media, being like, why are you guys so concerned with the logistics of this? Like, just, I was like, no, please, logistics. Because my first thought is, who keeps paying for a phone line after a relative passes? Like, wouldn't, like, you know, I have not been the executor of any estates or dealing with any of those details, but my best friend has, and she was living with me temporarily while she was doing the estate for her grandmother. And that's like one of the first things you do is cancel utilities, cancel bills, like close out those accounts. So
I have an 11-year-old, and we had an Apple Watch with a phone number on it. And the Apple Watch died, and we're still paying for the phone number because, like, at some point we're going to get him a cell phone, and he has it set up. We just, like, haven't fixed it for 6 months, you know? So sometimes you do miss it, and you do want to have it, but, like, he's not dead. So maybe there's that, too.
Not dead. And just, like, I could see people still being able to do this for, like, a month or so, right? Because a lot of paperwork involved in getting things. But for it to go on this long for both of these, and, like, these are, like, really close relatives. Like, it's Jill's sister, it's Mira's fiance. Like, wouldn't they have their partner's phone to see, like, oh, they're not going through? Like, wouldn't you just out of curiosity at some point pick up your partner's phone or your family member's phone and, like, do something with it? Or, I don't know.
Like who was paying for Isabelle's cell phone? It was probably her parents. Yeah. So Jill would know.
You know, it's just logistics. But it's yeah, what were your thoughts on voicemails for Isabelle overall?
I mean, I think the best part of it was Isabelle. It was the relationship with the sister. Everything else, I was like, well, this is fine. You know, like, this guy's sort of bland, but this sister relationship
so good.
Was so powerful to me. That was the core of the movie. And, like, it sort of had a bit of a lull in the center part of it because I was like, yeah, obviously Wes is going to fall in love with Jill because Jill is incredible. I just don't get why she's with Wes. Aside from that one moment on the tour bus, I was like, he is milquetoast. I don't get it. So I you know, personally, that was my reaction. Was I loved Jill. I loved Izzy. I thought that their relationship was incredible. I loved seeing Zoe Deutsch and her grief. I liked Nick Offerman showing up.
Oh, so
I
wasn't
expecting him. I loved her and her, like, food truck experiment. I loved everything about the Jill character. I felt like the Wes character was deeply underdeveloped.
I thought he was fine. Like, I like Nick Robinson, but I think for better or for worse, when I see him, all I can picture is him in Love, Simon. So he was the main character in Love, Simon. So I look at him and I go, that's Love, Simon. That is Mr. Love, Simon himself. Yeah, he was kind of like, he was nice. I think he had like the stirrings of an arc, and his best friends were amazing. The best friend characters for Wes were so fun. Like, about, you know, their wedding that was coming up, and you're gonna be the best man. Don't give a shitty speech. You're gonna be shitty at it. Like, I really enjoyed that interplay. But I agree, like, it was definitely Isabelle and Jill was great. And a little Easter egg for those of you who have seen it. Spoiler, I guess, if you haven't seen it. At the end, the ending scene when Jill is like dancing because the Robin song comes on, and then Wes calls Isabelle's number and leaves her voicemail about Jill. Isabelle, the actress who played Isabelle, is actually there in the crowd dancing. So when it is panning past Zoe Deutsch as Jill, like, dancing, you see Isabelle right behind her also dancing. And I thought that was really cute.
I thought that his friends were the most interesting thing about him. But, like, I think he worked in corporate real estate. I think he was supposed to be sort of cutthroat about it. There were things that could have been developed a bit more. It could have been like a really interesting sort of Grumpy Sunshine, back to our last episode, where she is grieving, but she's still optimistic about her job. And then he's kind of a grump and very focused on work. And then they sort of switch the roles where he's taking care of her and caring for her during these grieving moments. Like, they could have played with that a bit more, but I felt like it was just, like, implied, like, oh, you're very cutthroat. You're going to get a promotion. You're very important. Oh, but now this woman came along and you have this cell phone. Like, it didn't really feel fully developed until you got the friends or the cousins or whatever their relationship was. And then, you know, finally you get back to him in Texas and he's into her and he invites her to the wedding. And I don't know. It just felt... It felt a little underdeveloped and which is really disappointing because I did love this setup.
I think, I love the Engaged Friends. Andy, the guy is played by Harry Shum Jr., whom I love because he was Magnus on Shadowhunters. I just so fast. But yeah, I think that's the challenge because for all that the actors they're not young. It kind of felt like they were too young. Like Wes wasn't, you know, he was this real estate agent, you know, based in Austin and was, you know, going to San Francisco to meet Jill. But like, yeah, he was meant to be kind of like this corporate climber, kind of like Glenn Powell's character in Set It Up. And even though that's really kind of tropey and generic, he didn't quite fully get into that. So that tension felt a little bit weird. So his arc was really just, do I tell her that I'm this? So like his emotional like changeover into being someone who's like open and vulnerable, that his friends Andy and Brita were like, oh, look at you've grown as a human. Not quite there.
Yeah, I think, you know what I did appreciate about this though is so often when you have a flat character, it's the woman who is trying to allow the man to become a bigger version of himself and she's just there. And that's her only role. And this has really flipped that like Jill is a completely formed character. She has career aspirations. She's dealing with her grief. She's trying to balance all these things. This guy comes in and she's like, no, I'm voiceover, you know, like, and he shows up and he's into her immediately and he's a little bland, but like, fine. He doesn't really have an arc. So it feels, maybe it's a little bit more women's fiction than it is a romance because it really is Jill's story and Wes just happens to be there.
Yeah. Overall, though, like I think both movies are interesting. Like Love Again has a really random Celine Dion connection to it, which as a Canadian who loves Celine Dion, I appreciate it. But largely speaking, the reason I kind of brought up these two films and some of the other books that we had previously talked about was what an interesting story structure for a romance. This texting dead people. It's what I think I pitched this to you as. Like, people are texting dead people, and this is a romance, right? But there's some interesting beats that show up. But in both of these films, at least, these are extremely consistent. And in my mind, it actually shares a lot with Bets. It's like a she's all that kind of deal. So, you know, it always starts off with someone is missing, a dead or an absent person, so much so that they start talking to them anyway. So it's texting, they're leaving a voicemail, they're writing, because that's the coping mechanism that they are currently employing, because it was something they used to do all the time. It's such a habit, you know, and it's the illusion of a connection being maintained as a way to cope. And this is it's kind of a hard place to start a romance because these characters are destroyed. Like the scene in Voicemails to Isabelle when her parents call her in San Francisco to be like, Isabelle's in the hospital because she was, I think, going in for a lung transplant. Things went badly. And she flies home and she immediately sees her parents. And we know as the audience, obviously, Isabelle has passed. But Jill does not get this. She's like, where is it? Where is she? Where is she? And her mom's like, she didn't make it. No, like, where is she, though? What does the doctor say? And how she delivers that line so deadpan after her mom has literally just said, Isabelle has died. And Jill goes, what did her doctor say? Like, what a hard place to start a romance from. We're pretty much at the bottom of the barrel here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So much. It's so sad. Like, it can, I think, in a worse written plot, be like kind of like the magical penis fixes you again. That just by introducing a romantic character or a romantic partner, everything is fixed. And I think that's sometimes a challenge when you start a character in like a really bad place of grief to be like, oh, clearly the thing that's going to fix them is this romantic relationship. And it's like, that is a difficult road to combine.
And I'm so glad this didn't fall victim to that.
Yeah. Neither one of them.
Like,
really.
It was not, oh, I found love and it replaced the love that is missing. It was very much, I would rather have my sister back than have anything.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't replace that, and you can't understand that. And I didn't tell you that for a reason, and you, like, violated my privacy. Even though he sort of didn't, he sort of did. He didn't tell her.
Mm-hmm.
And that lie of omission was the true lie. It wasn't that he intentionally was like, I'm going to go find this girl and catfish her and find all this information about her and try to take advantage of her. It wasn't like that, but it was an intentional choice and deliberate choice not to tell her. And he did, he told her when she was asleep. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always like the next beat afterwards is always, they have this grief communication ritual, and now this stranger is receiving and reading or hearing these messages in secret. Someone else has the number. They're receiving the messages. And there's always this moment of choice. Do they reveal themselves? And I don't remember specifically in Love Again, but in Voicemails to Isabelle, like Wes starts to write, hey, who is this? The wrong number, whatever it is. And then he deletes it because of curiosity. And honestly, I'd be kind of curious because sometimes when you see like the person texting the wrong person, people respond, that gives you like that really great Thanksgiving story in the States that happened like with the older couple and the young Black men. They're like, come to Thanksgiving. And they're like, this is the wrong number. They're like, come anyway. And then that family, they started connecting for Thanksgiving for years until the husband passed away, but the younger men still go. Or there's that viral story of someone's like, hey, this is my grandson who was just born. And people in the group chat are like, we're here by accident. This is not us, but where are you? We're going to come to the hospital. Like this kind of like wrong texting message, like it can create some like really nice stories. But the moment that always happens here in this framework is they're about to say something and then they make a choice not to say anything. And then you've created this ethical tension that is a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They're just receiving and listening and not doing anything.
Right. Receiving and listening.
I don't know. It's like the stranger becoming a witness to someone's like purely emotional state. Like yet another like hard road to hoe is like, how does that person redeem themselves from that? It is kind of a violation of privacy. That's hard. Yeah. I don't know. It makes me angry every time. I'm like, just fucking say something, dude.
Yeah, and I like, to an extent, I get why he didn't, because he was like, this is creepy. I like you. At the end, he's even like, I fell in love with you before I even saw you. Okay, well, you fell in love with her and then you lied to her immediately?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
that's questionable.
Yeah, the core, like, romantic fantasy of this is, like, just like you said, you fall for the person before you see their face. You're falling in love with the inner person, the real you, the unguarded you, the one that comes out when no one else is watching. And somebody, when I was kind of researching into both of the films and some other books, they called it the anti-dating app premise. Because on dating apps, you're like, photo, swipe, 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 swipe. Oh. Like, people don't even read the profile. They're literally just looking at a photo and, judging how they're feeling or judging, what is true about a person. This is the exact opposite of that. All you're getting is their text or their voice. You know absolutely nothing else. You don't know their name, their age, where they live, what their relationship style is. There's no cute photos of them holding a dog or weird-ass photos of them holding a fish. It is just them. And it's all about the falling for someone's interior before you judge their exterior. Which, if you take that out of this plot framework, isn't that what we all want? For someone to judge me on the inside? So you're like, romantic! But also, this is creepy.
It also has a little bit of an overlap with, like, the You've Got Mail setup. Yeah. Which is, you're having these private conversations with somebody that you like, and then you have a public relationship with them and you don't like them, or there's some sort of rivalry or enmity in some way. But in this case, you're just removing that public relationship or pressing into it without... You still don't know the person that you're communicating with at first. Mm-hmm. Which can certainly lead to awkwardness once that's revealed. Yeah. But I love that she just like, when it became revealed, and he didn't tell her, she found out on her own because he put his jacket over her shoulders because she was cold, and she called her sister to be like, I would assume I met this guy, this is going really well, and then she felt his phone in her pocket vibrating, which is devastating. Devastating. When she finally sees some happiness, she sees like maybe a potential future with this guy. She's feeling really good about it. She wants to talk to her sister about it, and then she discovers this, and she just leaves. I'm like, good for you. Good for you, Jill.
Yeah.
Like, really holding your boundaries.
Part of the story that goes from like the contrived meet cute, because in both of these films, the person who knows has to like set up a meeting, right?
Right.
Wes flies to San Francisco. Rob, he engineers a meeting at the opera, which, you know, like they have to engineer something because they have the inside track on like where this person is and how they're thinking about things. So they engineer this meet cute. So that's kind of like bookend one. Oh, meeting. And both parties are coming into that meet cute with extremely different information. And then you have the reveal and like the rupture, the big like, oh, the discovery, the fuck up moment. And then both parties have the same information. Like in between that, yeah, it can be kind of like romantic because you know, they're talking and they're laughing and they're getting to know, and the person who has no idea that the other person has been listening or reading is like, oh, I feel so seen.
Yeah.
And
I feel like they already know me.
Oh my God, I was so right. This is an amazing person. I really should tell them. They never fucking do. But that time in between tends to be where the meat of things grow, right? Meet cute to the rupture. But then I didn't know, like, yes, these are written characters. These are fictional stories. But why do none of these characters ever say to themselves, you know what? I've seen movies like She's All That and 10 Things I Hate About You. And I know that if I hide this from them and it comes out later, I'm going to be fucked. And haven't I said to the TV multiple times, why don't you just tell them? And they still don't fucking tell them? But I can't lose them. Y'all, if you're worried about losing them when you tell the truth like that, you got bigger issues, my dude.
Especially like in this case, his friends were like, you have to tell her. You cannot let her fly all the way to Texas for this wedding and see her in person and then, like, not know. He's like, yeah, I wanted to. I planned to. I was thinking about it.
Yeah, I really wish people's friends would hold them more accountable. Because it's creepy. I'm like, it's romantic, yes, and this. But if this was a real life story, you'd be like, this is the creepiest person known to man. And friends should be like, you either tell them or I will. Like if I knew a friend of mine was, if Wes was my friend and I knew he was doing this to Isabelle, I would literally say to him, you either tell her right now or I am going to do it for you. Because like, not cool. Not cool. Especially when you find out it's because it's her dead sister. Because at first Wes isn't sure who Jill is messaging. She's kind of like, oh, is this a boyfriend? And she's like begging to get him back. It's like, oh no, it's her sister and she died. Oh, that is the moment where you're like, hey, I'm so sorry. Like, I just checked this number. I just got this number. You don't even have to say that you've been listening for weeks. You can say, hey, right. I just got this number today. Lie with that. But then you say something.
Right. How different would it have been if he'd been like, hi, I just got this number today. Like, even if he'd been listening for weeks. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's redraft. Mm-hmm. The day that he realizes he's out to dinner with I think it was Frida and Amy. Brita, thank you. And he's out to dinner with them, and he goes and he listens to Jill's voicemail, and he realizes that it's her sister. And then he texts and goes, hi, I'm out to dinner. Hi, I just got reassigned this phone number. Mm-hmm. I heard your voicemail. I'm so sorry for your loss. And then he starts a flirty text, not like flirty right away, like, hi, your sister died. You look cute. Send me a pic. You know, like not like that, but like a text thread that's like, is there anything I can do to support you? I've been through something like this too. Like, are you in Texas? Could I help you with something? Do you want to grab a cup of coffee and you can tell me about your sister as somebody who didn't know her? It might be really helpful. Like, how different would this movie have gone if, and then maybe she could have found out anyway. The reveal could have been, oh, you listened to older messages. You knew more than you gave on. But, oh, that's, especially flying to San Francisco. They're not in the same city. They're not in the same time zone. Yeah, he's technically going for work, but yeah.
Yeah, and like, what is really fun about the use of technology here is how that reveal happens. With Jill, they're at Annie and Brita's wedding. She gets cold. Here's my jacket. And she's like, oh, I gotta send messages about like this guy is amazing. And then, like you said, the phone starts to buzz in Wes's jacket pocket. She pulls it out. And it's like, oh, it's Jill. Why do you have this? With Love Again, Mira is spending the night at Rob's place, and they make love. And the next morning, she sees her texts on Rob's computer because Apple products connected across devices. And this is often used as a reveal sometimes too, like if there's a partner that's cheating, it's the partner might have their phone, but the messages are coming through on their iPad or their MacBook. So like technology really fucking these people over, but I guess in a good way. And then Ben
and I actually share an Apple ID. And many times I've been like, just get your own Apple ID, bro. Like, you don't need to be on my Apple ID. And he's like, but then what if things get disconnected? And what if nobody can call me? And I'm like, And so I get his text messages coming into my, not my phone, but my computer. And I'm like, oh, babe, call your mom. Call your mom right now. So yeah, a happy coupledom. It can be like really awkward where I'm like, oh, one of your coworkers just texted you and I saw it. I'm sorry.
That's so random. Can you just turn
I'm
it
not
off
trying to creep your phone, but like now it shows as red on your phone, so you might not see it. So I have to be like, hi, so-and-so from work just called.
That's so random. Y'all weird. But that reveal moment, and we've talked about this, this reveal in a couple of your ways. Like secret identity is another big place that this reveal comes up, because this is in many ways kind of a secret identity thing.
Yeah.
You don't know that I'm doing this. It's like, it is kind of that obligatory third act separation, third act conflict. But I think the extra weight here is because of the vulnerability of you saw me at my most vulnerable and you didn't tell me. And then in the instances of these two movies, it's the grief. It's not just I was vulnerable. It's this was my fiance and this was my sister. They weren't just like oversharing on a date, or they weren't saying something like, oh, I hate my boss. They don't know they're texting their boss. It's like, I was talking to a dead person who was the love of my life.
Mm-hmm. My soulmate.
Yeah. And you like intruded on that, and you in a way weaponized that because you used it as an inroad to me. And like, it is so hard to get beyond that, much like that forgiveness and the new normal that we talked about when we talked about secret identity. Like, it works in these films because it has to work because the style of the thing. But in real life, I was like, this is a point where you really have to lean into the fantasy of romance, because I don't think I could get past this.
Right. Is this forgivable?
Is it forgivable? I don't know.
I don't know if this is forgivable. And also, like, I didn't see Love Again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Wes groveled enough.
I don't either. I think I think they always need a little bit more forgiveness, or I think they always need a little bit more of an explicit apology session.
Yeah.
Because the receiver, the person who has been like reading this message or listening to this voicemail, they didn't cause the grief, right? A person died. They didn't ask for the messages. This was the person, they made a mistake. They were texting this number for a person who was no longer there, and they assumed that it was not going to get reassigned. But then where they did wrong was that they stayed, they listened, they fell in love, and trying to figure out in the story how they earn absolution and what earns them that forgiveness is interesting, because there's a lot of different ways you can play it. It can be, and in the case of Love Again, it's Mira saying, I'm always going to love my fiance, always. And her new partner, Rob, has to like be okay with that, and he accepts that. So we see that a lot too. Like, I'm never going to ask you to forget them. I'm never going to ask that you love me more than them. It's oftentimes you'll see that I just love you differently. Like, I still love my dead partner. You're my new partner. I can still love both of you. Or you can love the grief. In the case of Voicemails Isabelle, Wes does pay for the phone to be like Isabelle's for another year. Which tier? You said how much was that? Like,
It's $10 a month to have the phone
oh
number.
my God, I forgot how cheap phones are in the United States.
Just to have the phone number. It's not like to have the phone and the data plan and the whatever,
Oh
but it's like
no,
$10 a month. It's not like a huge out of pocket
that is
expense
so
here.
cheap in the United States. It is not that in
Mm-hmm.
Canada. I'm like, that's $1,000 a year.
Oh
Ridiculous.
my
Oh,
gosh.
our phones are
And
fucking
1,000 Canadian dollars, huh?
yeah, Canadian dollars. Our phones are extremely expensive because we only have like three telecom companies and they are regulated. It sucks. That's a rant for another day to talk about the mobile phone system here in Canada. Um, yeah, I don't know though. Like, what do you think needs to be present for the character to forgive this person who saw them or hurt them at their most vulnerable?
I think two things. I think both a greater apology and some sort of reckoning. Some sort of action that shows that they feel bad about what happened, or that they're doing something in service to the character who was wronged. So, Wes did apologize in a voicemail, and he did like hire somebody to hack Izzy's voicemails back and didn't take the credit for it. So there was like a little bit of a like, oh, you're doing something important. But if he had shown up in San Francisco and helped her with her food truck or done something to like advance her shown up in, I mean, maybe instead of a real estate person, he could have been a journalist and he could have written a shitty review about the person who screwed her over at the restaurant she worked at. Like there were things that, not that I think that like using your journalistic power to like get at your girlfriend's boss is really that ethical either. Now that I have said that out loud, I'm like, probably not a good idea. But could he have done more for her? Yes. Although he didn't want to overstep and he wanted to give her space and he wanted to give her, to respect her boundaries and all of that. But like, he was just a sound sack. He didn't do anything.
Yeah. I'm trying to think through like, yeah, how do they actually need to show up? Because in voicemails to Isabelle, it's Wes, he kind of like I think like it starts off as such a weird note. Like obviously he's listening to things, which cool. You could just ignore it and like let them have it and just like not say anything. But the fact that he went there, found her on her bench, and like
Yeah.
asked her, oh, like, oh, do you know this taco place that's great? And she's like, oh my God, that's my favorite taco place. Like that is really weird to me. And it's
He definitely, you used the word weaponize earlier, and I like that. He weaponized his knowledge of her to make himself seem like a good partner.
yeah, like
Or like the fates had aligned in some way as opposed to like just meeting her out.
yeah, it's kind of like it's instead of saying like I couldn't bring myself to interrupt you or to make you feel awkward by telling you I was there, but then it becomes I was collecting information on you and I was using that information very specifically. Like that active surveillance is hard, and honestly, I don't think either movie fully resolves it. They just kind of say they love each other, so like forgive it. It's a little bit too
Right.
hand wavy. Um, for me, that makes me wonder like what is this next version of their relationship going to be after the movie is over?
Right.
What is going to happen next? Will they ever
He did
trust people with their cell phones?
He did at the end of it say that he was going to ask her if he could move to San Francisco. He did ask her permission to move the relationship forward in some way so they didn't have to be long distance. Can I also just like complain that
Please.
like why did she keep the food truck in San Francisco? What's holding her in San Francisco except spite? Why didn't she just move home and do the food truck in Austin and that way she'd be closer to her parents? And Austin has an amazing food scene too. Like
Yeah.
what
I think
what was keeping her there aside from like the Nick Offerman character is a jerk and I want to prove him wrong, but like you're not going to prove a Michelin star restaurant wrong by opening a food truck.
No.
I don't know.
And I think like early on in the story, she's like, this is the food mecca. Like this is where I've always dreamed of being. And she had been talking about like how San Francisco is this mystical, magical town that she wanted to be. But yeah, to your point, like maybe she'll stay there for now. And then the food truck does give her a little bit more freedom. But if she wants to change that in the future, I will say one of the things that Love Again at least does right in amongst all the things it does wrong is that it does have what I would call like a mature and honest model of romance in that it says, yeah, she had this great love and he's not going away. And you need to acknowledge that and having that new love interest, be okay with that. I do like that. how they got there is complicated, but I do like it when that new person can say to someone, yeah, it is okay. This is something you don't have to feel guilty about. I should feel guilty as hell about a lot of things, but you don't need to feel bad that like you're betraying your dead fiance or you're betraying maybe your dead spouse. Like, I'm okay with this. This is normal. And I love that you're going to keep photos of them up in our house or in our space. I do like that. But
it's kind of reminding me, I hadn't thought about this, but it reminds me a bit of Practical Magic, where Sandy B had like the husband and had the kids with the husband, and then she was widowed, and then the police officer, police officer comes to town, and he's like, I think you killed someone. It's never really acknowledged, like he's just the new guy, and they never really talk about like her deceased love at all, or why that was the moment where she stopped practicing magic. Like it never really tied it back to it.
Very true. Very true. All right.
We'll see if Practical Magic 2 coming out this fall.
The trailer looks interesting. They just released the full trailer a couple weeks ago. It looks interesting. I have questions. I'm going to wait to watch it. There are a couple of other stories that kind of cover similar things. The other one that comes to mind in terms of movies, you've already kind of hit on You've Got Mail, this idea that you're falling for someone before you actually know who they are, and because they know certain things about you, they use that to their advantage. And You've Got Mail, they're emailing each other. They're AOL. They're electronic mails. They're emails. P.S. I love you. I haven't read the book, but the movie, I don't love the movie, but kind of similar. Hilary Swank gets letters from the dead husband, from Gerard Butler, that send her on all of these adventures, and that's how she finds love again. It's kind of like a spiritual cousin to I'm Texting the Dead. It's the dead is sending me messages via my mother, played by Kathy Bates.
Because you just said P.S. I Love You, there was a book I shipped probably about a year ago called P.S. I Hate You, which is her brother's, oh man, I'm going to have to pull all these details out of my head. Her brother has passed away, and he wants his ashes to be scattered at these 7 different places around the country, and so she has to go scatter them with his best friend, and so they have to go on this road trip together. But every time there's a new letter that they open when they get to that like latitude and longitude. To that extent, he's planned out this process. So that can also be a fun way to do it, so that way you're getting letters from the dead, but they've like written them, and then you're receiving them posthumously after they have written them as part of that process.
That's kind of fun. I enjoy that. Then, another kind of cousin to this style is like this text messaging, and you don't know who the other person is. Like there's Top Secret by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy. Spoiler alert by Olivia Dade is one that I really like. That's when you're texting, like, it turns out he's actually like the movie star for the project you were working at. It's also a little bit
because you were doing fanfic about him, and so you ended up like in his inbox, but he was writing fanfic too. Was that one?
Yeah, that's that one. Well, we actually just talked about it. That Jax Calder book, the second one in the that love theories, where like they're texting with a musician on Instagram from the musician's like Finsta account, and he's like, oh, it's totally not you.
Actually, both of those in that series were, because the one before that was the one that was they were
the
both
two moderators. Yeah. So
moderating love was that one, I think.
Yeah. So like, there's not those ones aren't as like egregious because you're not like manipulating someone in grief, but there's still like some fun elements. Like some of those, like neither side knows who the other person is, so it doesn't quite have that same element. You do have somewhere like, I know I'm the actual movie star, I am the actual musician, but still you're not really weaponizing that against the other person. It's more freedom for them. So like, I just get to be me and not all the baggage that goes with me being famous. But I do think it's these are interesting structures to play with. I will say the movies are definitely carried by the actors more so than the books, because
correct.
There's a lot that I have.
And the soundtrack, I think. The soundtrack to Voicemails to Isabelle was very sweet.
Oh my God, I love that Robin was like the big song at the end, like Show Me a Sign. And then all of a sudden Robin starts playing. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good.
That's a great movie.
The dancing in the park, that was great.
Yeah.
What do you ship the most about either Voicemails for Isabelle or this plot structure of I'm messaging dead people?
I'm going to say this is going to sound so weird. I love the grief.
Yeah, okay.
Which is a strange thing to say on a romance podcast, but that recognition that, like, whether it's your fiance, whether it's your sister, like someone in your life who is important has passed, and you carry that person with you past that point, and the new romantic interest or love interest in your life recognizes the importance that role that person had for you, the relationship that person had for you, and they see the meaningful aspects of that, those places that they can't replace for you. And that to me is a really beautiful thing. And also just like Jill and Izzy. Like I never really wanted a sister growing up, but I wish I'd had a sister like that. Not a sick sister, but like that relationship, that tightness, that closeness is just
oh yeah, like
the
early
way that
on,
they love each other.
Montage when Jill is at like a New Year's celebration and she decides to come home for midnight to be with her parents and with Izzy. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. So sweet. What about you? What did you ship the most about texting posthumously?
I'll say like for voicemails for Isabelle, like just to pull that out, it's Zoe Deutsch. She is resplendent. She is luminous. She's fucking funny as hell, and she played this balance of grief and funny really, really well. But more broadly, like even though I have a lot of criticism about how it happens and like the lies, I think there is something nice or powerful about being witnessed as who you really are and being vulnerable. Like in the act of doing it for the person who's doing it, like it must feel so good that you have that outlet. I think that's why a lot of us like therapy, because our therapist is kind of that. But of course, when you then extrapolate that out and be like, and somebody's receiving that, I don't love that, but I love this idea that like they get to be all of this. They get to have all of these feelings that are unfiltered, a little chaotic, and someone's like, yeah, I dig it. I don't like how they receive it, but I like that idea of like, oh yeah, I like you in your mess. I just wish they would disclose it a little bit earlier. Hi, I'm listening and witnessing your mess. I still love it, but I'm here. That'd be great.
I witness your mess and it doesn't turn me away. It doesn't, you know.
I like it. I like it a lot. Well, before we get into the question of what we're shipping this week, head on over to your podcast provider of choice. Leave us a rating, review, subscribe. It helps more people find out about the show, and we'd greatly appreciate that. Bring us more soulmates. I promise not to lie to them if I'm listening to their voicemails. Meg,
don't listen to who listens to voicemails anymore?
Honestly, I don't listen. I have visual voicemail, which just gives me transcript of voicemail messages. Not that I get a lot of voicemail.
Sometimes I can't understand it, and sometimes it is actually someone where it's like, I'm calling from the middle school and I need to talk, and I'm like, oh, I gotta actually listen to this one.
Yeah,
but most of the time it's like, I got one yesterday that was like, we're calling about that Galaxy Samsung phone that you bought and you didn't pay for. I'm like, nah, this is just spam.
God, spam. I get so many spam calls every single day. It's great. Meg, what are you shipping?
Meg complains about spam 2 episodes in a row. Here's what we're hearing. I was going to do another Courtney Milan, but because I had this surgery last week and I saw this list that you put together of books where people accidentally text each other, and it had Top Secret on there, and I hadn't read that one yet, even though I feel like I've read so much Elle Kennedy and so much Serena Bowen, and I went to my library and I found the audiobook so I could just sit and listen to Top Secret. So I am shipping Top Secret by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy, the same 2 who wrote him, as a co-write. It is the story of 2 fraternity brothers, Keating and Luke, and Keating has been with his girlfriend since they were in high school, and she says, for my birthday, they're like juniors in college, for my birthday I want to have a threesome. And so he's like, okay, and now I'm in charge of setting this up. And so he goes on a dating app and he finds someone that he likes and he starts texting that person, and they have like very flirtatious conversations where he like very rarely brings up his girlfriend, but then he sort of goes, oh, but I just don't want to reveal anything about her. I don't want to like blow up her identity without her permission. So he's sort of like justifying itself to him. Turns out that the person that he is texting with is in his, not just in his fraternity, but they share a floor. The 2 of them are the only 2 that live on the 3rd floor together. And so they're texting each other through this app. They don't know that it's each other. It gets to the night of Annika's birthday, and Keating goes, and Annika backs out. She's like, I didn't actually want a threesome. I just wanted to like spice up our relationship, and I thought that this would be the thing that would make you go negotiate. Oh, we don't actually have to have a threesome, but we'll do this instead. And then he went forth with the threesome because he keeps his promises, and she's like, oh no, don't do it. And so Keating steps out in the hallway and sees this person that he doesn't like in his fraternity. What are you doing? Are you catfishing me? What is this? And so then they have to sort of reevaluate what their relationship is, because they did have these flirty text messages. They did have this sort of like sexting relationship with each other. Then they realize that they're attracted to each other once they realize who the other person is, but there's no issues with disclosure. And there are a couple moments at the beginning where like the Keating's name on the app is Lobster Shorts. And there's a moment where you think he's going to go put on shorts with lobsters on them and it's going to give him away. And then Luke's going to know that, oh my God, it's Keating. And they didn't do it. They just let them both discover it at the same time, which was the way to make it clean and not have one person have more information than the other. And sometimes dramatic irony can be really beautiful. And sometimes in that, like, you've got Melee way, it can be really manipulative. So I won't tell you how it all ends, but it was, I think I listened to the whole 10-hour book I listened at 1.3 speed, and so it was all in a day because I was laying in bed doing nothing. But highly, highly recommend Top Secret by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy. So thank you, Nikki, for the recommendation, because you put it in this list, and I was like, well, that feels like something I should enjoy.
I think I need to go back, and I have not read that one in probably what feels like a while. I need to go back and read that one. Okay, my TBR just fucking keeps expanding.
I know.
I don't want to work. I just want to read all day.
Never ends. All right, Nikki, what are you shipping this week?
I am shipping Mac's Horribly Hellacious Ghost Town by A.J. Sherwood. This is the final book in the Mac's Marvelous Manifestation series, which is the same universe as the John's Case Files series, which it's one of my top series of all times. I reread it all the time. When this book came out, I reread the entire Mac series and the John series. So in this book, you have Mac, who is a medium. So he sees ghosts, he helps to pass them, exorcise them. So he works for the FBI with his anchor and partner, Brandon. And they go around and they're called into different situations to solve ghost problems. So them and their friends, John and his partner and husband, Dawn, plus Eli and her husbands, like everybody you've met in the entire series, they get called to this ghost town to be like, shit is going down. Something's wrong. The ghosts are getting really aggressive. People are getting hurt. There's a lot that you kind of have to do. So it's this old mining ghost town that they get called in to solve, like, what is going on here. And very quickly they realize this is going to be a shitstorm, because the ghost town is a mining ghost town from the gold rush, and a fuck ton of people died very violently. There's a ghost gang, and they didn't know ghosts could form gangs. And they're trying to deal with like the spiritual energy, because in this world, water is a really big spiritual conductor. The ghost town is on a river. So there's all of this shit going down. And then also Mac finds this teenager who is an untrained medium, and her parents refuse to help her. So Mac takes her on as an apprentice, and there's drama that kind of starts with that. So we also get to have Lachlan, our favorite Scotsman with a large sword from the Heinlein story early on in the series. So it's pretty much like every character coming back and having a great time with their apprentices that you got to see in earlier stories. So one of my favorite series. I just love the relationships between everybody. And this, can you imagine, like, every time I read this series in particular, because they are FBI agents and they get called around North America to deal with these problems. And it's like, man, what must it be like to have to say to your friends and family, I'm so sorry, I can't come to dinner on Sunday. I have to go to this ghost town and fight a ghost gang. And, you pack salt and holy water and all of these other things to fight and forcibly exorcise these ghosts. It's very funny. So Mac's Horribly Hellacious Ghost Town, A.J. Sherwood. If you haven't read any of the other Mac books, they're highly recommend reading the John series first and then Mac. There is a reading list posted somewhere because they do have some overlapping topics, but overall the entire series is fabulous. So would recommend.
We will put the reading list, we will put the first book in series, and we will put this most recent book in the show notes for this episode.
Beautiful. All right. Well, that is all for us this week. If you'd like to support the show, a few things you can do. Follow us on social media. We are at First Dates to Soulmates on most platforms. Rate, review, and subscribe on your podcast provider of choice. Tell a friend. Word of mouth is great to help the show grow. And if you have a little bit of money to send our way, you can subscribe to the show on Substack. Do it for 1 month. Do it for many months. We're just happy you're here. We are also offering show sponsorships. If you'd like some more information about that, you can check out firstdatesandsoulmates.com. Coming up next week, we're talking cozy romance. The vibe is going from creepy people reading voicemails to cozy romance, where we're going to be joined by Megan Ekman. That's coming up next week. Bye.